It's one of the strangest sights in tennis. A player wins a point, sometimes even a match, and instead of celebrating, they raise a hand in apology. Not for a mistake, not for breaking the rules, but for something completely out of their control. Luck. Pure, unpredictable luck. And once again, that fragile line between fortune and fairness took center stage, this time involving Stan Wawrinka and Cameron Norrie in a moment that felt as heartbreaking as it was unforgettable. At the Barcelona Open Bank Sabadell, fans expected a competitive match. What they didn't expect was a finish that would leave one player silently apologizing and the other walking away from what could be his final appearance at the tournament. And honestly, no matter how many matches you watch, moments like this never get easier to process. From the very first game, there was tension in the air. Norrie came out looking sharp, composed, and ready to control the rhythm. His left-handed game created angles that immediately put pressure on Wawrinka. But if there's one thing we've learned over the years, it's that writing off Wawrinka early is always a mistake. Even at 41, he carries that quiet belief, that ability to turn a match around with just a few swings of the racket. The opening set told a story of missed chances and small margins. Wawrinka had opportunities, real ones, but just couldn't convert when it mattered most. A missed slice here, a mistimed forehand there, and suddenly Norrie had the edge. It wasn't domination. It was precision. Norrie stayed calm, picked his moments, and eventually closed the set 6-4. But the second set, that's where everything changed. Tennis matches often swing on a single moment, and you could feel one coming. Norrie looked ready to finish it when he stepped up to serve at 5-4. One solid game, and it was over. But pressure does strange things, even to the most composed players. A double fault at the worst possible time opened the door, and Wawrinka didn't hesitate. Suddenly, the energy shifted. The crowd felt it. Wawrinka felt it. And Norrie, for the first time, looked slightly unsure. The set moved into a tiebreak, and that's where experience started to shine. Wawrinka, with all his years on tour, played with clarity and courage. He punished mistakes, stayed aggressive, and edged the breakers 7-5. Now it was a match again. At this point, it wasn't just about tennis. It was about resilience. Norrie had to reset mentally after letting the match slip from his grasp. Wawrinka, on the other hand, had momentum, belief, and the crowd behind him. You could see it in his movement, in his shot selection. He wasn't just competing anymore. He was pushing. The final set was tight. Every game mattered. Every point felt heavier than the last. Both players held serve early, neither willing to give an inch. But then came those small moments that define matches. Wawrinka had break chances. Clear ones. And yet, somehow, they slipped away. One missed volley. One hesitation at the net. That was all it took. At 4-4, the tension was almost unbearable. Wawrinka fought hard to stay in it, saving break points with brilliant winners that reminded everyone why he's been one of the most respected players of his generation. But tennis can be cruel. In the very next game, serving to stay in the match, he made a rare, simple error. A routine forehand into the net. Match point for Norrie. And then came the moment no one will forget. Norrie went for the finish, attacking the point with intent. The ball struck the net cord, and instead of bouncing back, it trickled over. Just enough. Just barely. A winner. Match over. But it didn't feel like a victory. Norrie didn't celebrate. There was no fist pump, no roar, no release of emotion. Instead, he raised his hand, almost instinctively, apologizing for something he didn't control. His face said it all. Relief, yes. But also frustration. And maybe even guilt. Because deep down, every player knows the truth. That point could have gone the other way. That match could have ended differently. For Wawrinka, it was a brutal way to exit. Not just the match, but possibly his journey at Barcelona. A career filled with iconic moments, Grand Slam glory, and unforgettable battles, ending here, on a net cord. And yet, there was something beautiful in what happened next. Tommy Robredo, now the tournament director, stepped forward with a special gesture. A small trophy. A recognition not just of Wawrinka's performance, but of his legacy. 2 decades after their own meeting on this very stage, Robredo honored him in a moment that felt deeply personal. It was a reminder that tennis is more than just results. It's about respect. About history. About the connections built over years of competition. For Norrie, the win carries momentum. Another deep run at Barcelona, another step forward in a season where consistency has been key. His next challenge comes against Ethan Quinn, a rising name who's already made waves by defeating Riley Opelka. But even as Norrie moves on, this match will stay with him. Because moments like that don't fade quickly. And it brings us back to that strange tradition. The net court apology. Why does it exist? Why do players feel the need to say sorry for something that's simply part of the game? We've seen it before. In 2023, Jannik Sinner had a similar moment at the Shanghai Masters against Marcos Giron. After benefiting from a net cord during a key point, Sinner didn't just acknowledge it. He smiled, apologized, and kept things light. It was a small gesture, but it showed awareness. Respect. But not everyone sees it the same way. Back in 2018, a match between Daniil Medvedev and Stefanos Tsitsipas turned into something much bigger than tennis. Medvedev was furious after Tsitsipas didn't apologize for a net cord. What followed was an explosive exchange that fans still talk about today. It wasn't really about that one point. It was about perception. About what players believe is fair, respectful, or necessary. And then there's the new generation. Players like Jenson Brooksby, who openly questioned the whole idea. In his view, net cords are just part of the game. No apology needed. Meanwhile, veterans like Fabio Fognini see it differently, even mocking the idea of ignoring such moments. So where does that leave us? Is the net cord apology a meaningful gesture of sportsmanship? Or is it just an outdated ritual that players follow without thinking? Maybe it's both. Because at its core, tennis is a sport built on individual accountability. There are no teammates to share the blame, no one else to rely on in pressure moments. Every point is personal. Every outcome feels earned, or unfair. And when luck steps in, even for a second, it disrupts that balance. That's why players apologize. Not because they did something wrong, but because they understand what it feels like to be on the other side. What happened between Norrie and Wawrinka wasn't just another match. It was a reminder of how thin the margins are in this sport. How a single bounce, a single touch of the net, can change everything. And maybe that's what makes tennis so compelling. Because no matter how skilled you are, no matter how experienced, there's always that element you can't control. That unpredictable twist that turns victory into something bittersweet. As fans, we watch for the drama, the rivalries, the big moments. But sometimes, it's these quiet, almost awkward gestures that stay with us the longest. A raised hand. A silent apology. A shared understanding between two players who know exactly how fragile the game can be. So what do you think? Should players apologize for net cords, or is it just part of the sport that everyone should accept? Let me know your thoughts. Because honestly, this debate might never have a clear answer, and that's it for today's story, tennis at its most unpredictable, emotional, and real. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Tennis Desk, and turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest stories from the world of tennis. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should players apologize for net cords, or is it just part of the game? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.